Hi everybody, this is Magnolia ASMR, also known as Caroline, and today I'm going to be doing a soft-spoken video about the paranormal. This was a request, so I'm not sure if you'll find this relaxing, but I thought it was a fun idea. So if you like it, this could possibly be a series, and yeah, I think it could be fun. So in preparing for this video, I was looking through Reddit for some spooky stories and I really scared myself. So I'm today just going to talk about my own experiences, which you might find scary, but I think I'm desensitized to it by now. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about my experience living in a haunted house, which is a house I lived in from age around like 4 to 10 years old. And after that, I'm going to be going through a subreddit that I found that's spooky but not too spooky, called Glitch in the Matrix. And they describe this as eyewitness events that cannot be explained with critical thinking. Spooky things that can't really be explained, but aren't necessarily about ghosts. So a few disclaimers before we get started. One, there might be bugs in the background, so I'm sorry. Enjoy the nature sounds. I'm in a rural area of Maine. I can't control the bugs. And two, you might hear some whirring in the background. It's just my computer getting overheated. To keep this video going, it's kind of late right now. We're just going to ignore it. So before I tell you about my actual experiences in this house, I do want to share what the house was like. So my family purchased it from an owner who was older and had lived in the house, I think, a pretty long time. This house is one of the oldest houses in the town where it's located. We think it was built around the early 1900s, so it was at least 100 years old when we purchased it. I'm now 26, almost 27, so when we purchased it when I was 4, this was like 1997, so it was a while ago. And the place was pretty run down to begin with. Lots of overgrown plants and trees all around the front yard. The house was huge. It was 2 stories, I think like 5 bedrooms. They had a maid's corridor upstairs, like a long hallway that went into this little bedroom. That was my sister's nursery when she was born. I don't know how she slept there. It was so creepy. We had like a little library. Lots of places to hide and to be spooked. So, and I was pretty much the only person who experienced sort of paranormal activity in the house. My parents later on told me about experiences they had that they kind of just explained away as being just like aspects of having an older house. But I'll also share those with you because I think that they could be interpreted as having been encounters with ghosts. My first experience happened when I was about 7 or 8. All of these encounters I think happened within the span of about 2 years, right before we moved. So the first encounter, I was in my bed trying to fall asleep, and I had a very large bedroom with a little fireplace. It wasn't a working fireplace, but I would store little toys inside, and it had like an iron curtain that I was close at night because it spooked me out. And I didn't share a room with my sister, but we did sleep together because when she grew out of her crib, rather than get her own bed, I had like a large queen-sized bed and I would get scared at night, so my parents just had my sister sleep with me. So I was asleep in bed with my sister, and all of a sudden I heard someone kind of whispering my name, like they were saying my name far away. And so I heard someone just go, Caroline, Caroline. And initially, I think that night my babysitter had been babysitting us. My parents were out to dinner or something. I went into the other room to where my babysitter was, and I asked her, Clement, what do you want? Like, I heard you say my name. And she said, no, I didn't say your name. Go back to bed. You must have just been half asleep and heard something. So I went back to bed, and I knew something was off. And so I lay in bed, listening, waiting for it to happen again and again. I heard someone saying my name, and this time I was like, I'm not just hearing things, someone is saying my name. It sounded like it was coming from the fireplace, but that was too scary of an idea, so I was like, Clement has to be saying my name. So I got back up, went over to my babysitter again, and was like, Clement, I heard it again, like, were you saying my name? She's like, no, and she brought me back to bed, tucked me in, said goodnight, and I was like, at this point, just like lying in bed, eyes wide open, so scared. And I heard it a third time, and this time it's funny because I went to a Catholic school growing up, and we had just heard a biblical story of a boy who had God come to him, who had like said his name, and at first he thought that it was his dad calling him, and so kept going over to his dad, and eventually his dad was like, maybe it's God talking to you. So the kid was like, God, and then God gave him a message. So in my little Catholic brain, I was like, God. And I said it aloud. I was like, God, is that you? And then I didn't hear my name again. So that definitely scared me. But as a kid, those things happen, and then you just kind of forget about them, and you don't think about them too hard. You just sort of like, that was weird, that was scary. Hope it doesn't happen again. So that kind of just like went to the back of my brain for a while. And then other things happened. So one strange thing, this actually happened before someone had said my name, but I didn't really think of it as having been a paranormal activity when I was younger, because my parents always explained it as having just been because we lived in an old house. So my best friend and I were playing dolls in my closet. I had a big walk-in closet where I kept my clothes, and then also a big toy chest. So there was a little string that you pull to turn on the light. I'm already getting scared thinking about this. Maybe I'm not desensitized. And it was pretty high up, and we were little. I was probably 6 when this happened. And so usually I'd stand on something to turn on the light, but we were just in there quickly grabbing things, and so I didn't think to turn on the light. So we were both inside grabbing some dolls, and all of a sudden the door shut behind us, and neither of us had touched that door. We would never have touched that door. The lights were off. We were 6. She didn't touch it, I didn't touch it, the door closed. And when we went to open it, the doorknob fell off, and it wouldn't push open. There was no way of getting out. So we freaked out, got on our hands and knees, yelling underneath the door, my babysitter Clement was also there that day babysitting me again. So I was like, my babysitter's doing all this, but I promise she wasn't. So we're on our hands and knees and like yelling, and she must have been vacuuming or something because she didn't hear us. And eventually, after like 10 minutes or so, she came to check on us and found us in the closet. But we were so spooked, and my mom told us, it's an old house, like doorknobs sometimes fall off if you pull them the wrong way, but no one ever explained to us like how the door closed. Definitely wasn't a breeze. It was a pretty thick door. So that happened. One of the scariest encounters I had is one that sounds really odd. It sounds so unbelievable. There's a fly. And the computer's whirring. This is why I gave a disclaimer. It sounds so unbelievable that when I tell this particular encounter, people don't usually get scared. But it's by far the scariest one for me because I still remember it so vividly, and it was so bizarre. I was brushing my hair in the mirror, and it was a full-length mirror, like on the back of my closet door, and I was brushing my hair, and all of a sudden, I saw something red floating behind me, and it looked like a flower that I had made for Dia de los Muertos, like those not paper mache, but those like thin papery flowers you make that you crumple up. And I had one in my room, and I saw what looked like that flower floating behind me. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I went to turn around and look at it, and I heard a loud crash, like so loud it was like a chandelier had fallen from the ceiling, like glass shattering everywhere. The sound, and the room shook. And I grew up in California, so it felt like an earthquake, and it lasted probably like 3 seconds. It was so fast, and I looked around. Nothing had fallen, nothing was broken, there was no paper mache flower, like everything was fine. And I ran over to my brother's bedroom that was connected to mine by a bathroom, so it was like adjacent. And I was like, Tommy, did you feel that? Like that shaking? Did you hear that sound? Like, what was that? And he didn't hear anything, didn't feel anything, nothing. He didn't. Yeah, it had just been me. It was so bizarre. So, yeah, that definitely spooked me. That was, yeah, to this day, I think that's one of the more frightening things that's happened. And then the last one's the kicker. So, if I didn't believe in ghosts, this last experience changed all of that. So, when I was 8, I was in my bed with my sister, and I'd been asleep, and I didn't typically turn the lights off all the way. I usually kept them kind of dimmed, because I would get scared at night. But the door was usually closed. I have to brace myself for this one. So I had woken up and was looking around my room. You know, when you just like come out of sleep and you're just kind of like looking around. And I noticed there was a crack in the door. And in the crack, I saw a woman. And she was very clearly a woman. Like, I could see her face, her body, but she was white, kind of almost translucent. Like she didn't look, I knew she wasn't a person. I knew she wasn't just like an intruder in the house. She didn't look like a person. I still to this day remember her features. She looked a lot like my friend growing up's mom, but not her. And I just looked her in the eyes, and she looked back at me like really blank faced, just staring at me. And I was so filled with fear. I didn't scream, I didn't do anything really, I just like froze. And I slowly pulled the covers over my head and just hid under my covers, like praying that she'd just go away. And after about maybe like 10 minutes, I came back out and the door was closed and she was gone. That is my only time ever seeing a ghost. There's nothing like it when it happens. Like, it's just the most bizarre experience. I was so full of fear. It's one of my most vivid memories from childhood. Yeah, I've never seen a ghost since, but I'm like so scared that I'm gonna see another ghost. I'm scared talking about it. I'm scared talking about it's gonna bring a ghost over right now. You know, I've experienced sleep paralysis. I've experienced lucid dreaming, things that are like this experience. This was not it. Like, I was absolutely 100% awake. There was no mistaking what I saw. It wasn't just like a flash of seeing something. I looked someone in the face. There was something in the face. Yeah. So that's my experience in a haunted house. What my parents experienced, so a few things happened. Two things that my mom told me about. One, there had been a vase that had fallen off of a mantle above our fireplace, and nothing else had fallen, so it wasn't like there was an earthquake and things got knocked over. It was in a place where it couldn't have just like tipped over. It was like it had been pushed and it had shattered, and my parents couldn't explain it. My mom and my dad are both very logical people and don't believe in ghosts, and so my mom had thought it was strange, and strange enough that when I asked her if she'd ever experienced any ghostly encounters, she thought of that experience, but said, I just kind of thought, it's just an old house. It's creaky, things, walls expand at nighttime in old houses. Like, who knows, maybe that it just somehow got pushed off. And then something that was a little creepier, enough that my parents actually called the police, is that there had been a box in the attic that had been at the back of the attic, and somehow it got pushed to the stairs and pushed down the stairs. Totally inexplicable. And my parents, they'd heard the crash, opened the door, seen the box at the bottom of the stairs, and were so spooked they thought someone was up there and called the police. And the police came and were like, again, like, it's an old house. I don't know how it's an old house becomes this like universal explanation for these things, but yeah. I also used to hear footsteps in the attic a lot, but my parents said it was squirrels. Squirrels don't sound like human footsteps, but whatever. So yeah, spooky stuff. So I do believe in ghosts. When I've tried to like really think about what are ghosts, that I'm not sure about. Are they spirits? Are they, like, I've heard explanations that ghosts are like energy that's been left over from people. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But they're definitely things that we can't explain and things that are very real that people are seeing, that aren't just flashes of light or, things that can be explained by wind or, they're things that just are sort of unbelievable. So with that, I'm going to move on to the subreddit I was talking about called Glitches in the Matrix, and we're going to look through some of these stories. So if you're watching this and you've experienced a glitch in the Matrix or something you just can't really explain, put it in the comments. Maybe if I get a lot of comments, I can read them in a next video. That would be fun. So this is the first post. It's titled, "Me and my daughter witnessed something surreal and unexplainable today. For a few weeks before this, while out driving, I've observed pedestrians standing at the traffic lights who will reach into their pocket and look at their phones as they're walking across the road when the light goes green. Nothing significant or strange about this, just one of those mundane things you notice while going about your day. Today I was driving with my daughter and we stopped at a red light at a crossing and there was a man standing there. Nothing out of the ordinary. My dog. Denim jacket, black cap, glasses, around 6'2". I thought I'd try to weird out my young daughter. She's 5, so I knew I was going to blow her damn mind. So I said, 'See that man?' When the walking man goes green and he starts to walk across, he'll reach into his pocket and pull out his phone and start looking at it. Watch and see. As he walks across, he reaches into his pocket, but then immediately takes his hand out and looks and points right at me with his mouth open, smiling like a gotcha stance. Ugh. Of course, my daughter found this absolutely hilarious, and I sat there completely mind blown. I must have sat there in silence, looking at him walk across for the next 10 seconds. I drove on and had a look at him as I drove past, and he was smirking and laughing. I've been playing it through my head all day. The windows were up, the radio was on, I wasn't shouting, my voice was not even remotely raised. He must have been about 15 to 20 feet away from me. I can't figure out at all how he could have heard me. It's literally impossible. Maybe he was a lip reader. I don't know, I'm just like, this is weird, but not the weirdest thing I've ever heard. The only thing I can think of is that he had the same observation as me and thought I might be thinking the same thing, so just went for it. But realistically, what are even the chances of this? Yeah, that's really strange. Someone says maybe he's your FBI agent. Okay, let's see. This one is called Met a Random Girl Who Shares an Exact Memory and Situation I Have. And I haven't read this yet. To make this brief, my older brother died in 2000. Prior to this, he once was driving with me in his Jeep when I was about 10 years old. My dog's getting comfortable. Oh my god. He's so cute. In the Jeep, he had the Song 2 by Blur playing in his car, and he was dancing while driving, waving his arms, saying Wahoo. I've kept this memory alive by having my license plate as Wahoo. Today I met a random stranger at a hockey game. The hockey game happened to play the same song, and this girl turned to me and said, "My older brother played this one in his Jeep." I was completely confused and thought I heard wrong at first and said, "Say that again, I didn't quite hear you." And she literally repeated it again. She then went on to explain her brother died in 2000, and I asked her what her license plate said, and she said that it says Wahoo and she's from New Hampshire. What are the odds that this would happen? That's weird. That one really is weird. Wow. Okay, this one looks interesting. This one's called Something is Wrong with My Girlfriend. me, male 26, and my girlfriend, female 25, have been living together in an apartment for 2.5 years. Everything has been normal until quarantine started this is new. About 4 weeks ago, when I started noticing some odd things. Is this fake? Let's keep reading. For instance, for the last 3 weeks or so, my girlfriend has been putting sugar in her morning coffee, while throughout our entire relationship, she's always been very much against it. It may seem like a small detail, but she's always been complaining about how I don't know what real coffee is since I put quite a lot of sugar. On the first day that I saw her drinking coffee with sugar, I asked her why she would do that, and she looked at me weirded out and said something like, "What are you talking about? I've always been putting sugar in my coffee." I felt a bit confused for a moment, but then we started talking about some other things, so I didn't think anything more about it until the morning after, when she did the exact same thing and had once again the same reaction. Fast forward a few days, and another odd thing happened. We were having sex, and she suddenly suggested a sex pose that we had already tried once, but it had gone wrong and it hurt her a lot, so we had simply decided not to try it anymore. Naturally, I was very surprised with her suggestion and reminded her about the time when it went wrong, and she just completely dismissed it, saying that I probably mixed her up with some ex-girlfriend or that I was just tripping. We then did the pose and we actually enjoyed it. Today, the weirdest thing happened, which is the reason I'm writing this post. I don't know why, but this one's really scaring me, and I'm going to tell you why after, because it's reminded me of a Goosebumps story that I had read once. In the afternoon, I was working at home. I'm employed as a PhD student at the computer science department of a university. When my girlfriend asked me what's up with the guy who I've never heard of before, I asked her who she's referring to, and she said, "Well, it's that colleague of yours who you always talk about, the one from the company where you were employed at." I froze and asked her to repeat, and she said exactly the same thing all over again. Then I told her that I don't work at any company, nor have I ever worked at any company since I started a PhD straight after my master's degree. At that point, she also completely froze, and we were just staring at each other, completely confused and shocked for a few moments. She then asked me what the fuck is going on, and I reminded her about the coffee thing and about the sex pose, and that I don't know anymore what is going on. At this point, she started crying too and asked what is wrong with us. Nor she, nor me, nor anyone in both families have ever had any mental problems in the past. We don't know what to do about this. Can anyone explain what's wrong with us? Edit. Thanks everyone for your immense help and concern. You're wonderful people. Oh, we talked to the landlord about this problem, and she will help us with getting a detector and checking the carbon monoxide level in the apartment. Also, though we do regular medical checkups, we will have another one soon. Yeah, so everyone who commented said that it's probably something psychological or something going on with, could be some neurological issue. This one can probably be explained. I don't think it's like somebody has suddenly switched places with his girlfriend. Like, it sounds like it's something that could be explained. But it scared me at first because it was reminding me of this really scary Goosebumps story I heard when I was little about a plant that took the form of a human and like killed off this family's dad and took his place. I don't remember the full story, but it was so scary, and it just reminded me of that, like people posing as loved ones and taking their places. But it's definitely carbon monoxide poisoning is a much more logical explanation. Okay, let's find another, and then this might be the last. Okay, this one's titled, "I'm Still Shitting My Pants Over This." About 30 seconds ago, I was sitting on the couch as my dog walked by to go sit on her bed. We have behind the L part of the section. She had something small caught in her throat last night, I think a popcorn shell, so I was paying attention to her breathing just to make sure she got it out. For a few minutes, she was breathing fine, and then what sounded like a light snore started happening. this is semi-normal for her depending on what position she's laying in, so I didn't bother to go and check on her. That went on for about 5 minutes until the most disgusting and, to my now realization, terrifying snore slash cough slash wheezing sound started happening. I got over to make sure she's okay, and the exact moment I looked at her bed, the sound stopped mid-breath and she wasn't there. Ooh. Ooh. She was outside with my parents, had been there around, oh, I have chills, had been there around 30 minutes. There's no way to get out of the room without walking right past me. I don't know whose fucking dog I saw and what was making that, oh my god, that wasn't even the dog that walked by. I don't know whose fucking dog I saw and what was making that creepy sound 5 feet away from me. I'm going to be staying outside for the rest of the day and hiring an exorcist. That one is scary. Ew, that one is really creepy. Oh, someone else said this. Someone else said, I had something like this happen to me. I was sitting in the bed watching TV and my dog walked into the room. I could hear her toenails clacking away, got up on my bed. I felt the springs compress in her half as she plooped down next to me, half on my leg. I went to pat her and nothing was there, just nothing. Ooh. I had to look at my dog to make sure he's actually there. I'm going to call it a night, and yeah, thanks for joining me for these stories. I don't know if it was relaxing, but I hope it was entertaining, and yeah, I'll see you for the next video.